All right, we got another deal here for you. We've had requests for smaller deals, so we decided to look at one here. This is a mechanic shop that focuses on semi trucks and trailers based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Same as all the other videos. We're going to go through the deal. I'm going to give you first impressions, things to look out for, red flags, green flags. Then we're going to go to our quick vet calculator and we're going to show you the numbers and break it down. So, asking price 980 grand, SDE or cash flow 375. For this size of business, this is likely actual SDE, meaning seller discretionary. So it includes the owner's salary and everything else all in one. This is really not a good number to go on. So we're going to walk through that when we start going through the actual calculation. But 1.5 million, decent margin. Rent is wild, but it's likely because of the size of space you need. And these kind of look like they might actually be real pictures. Kind of space you need just to handle, basically there's two trucks in here. It's half full. So if you have three, you're basically full up. Um, Rent makes sense. It's wild, but it probably makes sense. Established 2021, so they're 4 years in business. Kind of light, but as long as they have some decent relationships that you can take over, there's probably some legs to be had here. So meaning like there's potentially a good business to build on. Let's see. So Las Vegas, largest private diesel shop for sale. That's kind of alarming that this is the largest shop if they're only doing 1.5 million in revenue, but margin's okay. So potentially there is still expansion room, or maybe there's room for your your pricing to go up, or just added room, not putting a supercar. This looks like a McLaren or Corvette or something there in the corner of your shop. Um, let's see. It's an authorized alignment vendor for a couple of leasing companies. That's good. That means you have long-term relationships, bringing in cash flow. 24 parking spots. This must be outside the facility. That's probably why you're probably paying for land here as well. Strip view is probably like excess. I don't know if you really need that. That might be why the rent is so wild. So it's probably worth. You're going to have a tough time trying to relocate this post acquisition because SBA, if you use SBA, is going to need you to have a commitment of 5-10 years on this. But likely, if you can move this not to be strip view, so a bit further away, which is also probably better for the trucks, you can probably get this rent down at least a few grand a month, which is huge. So we have two alignment systems, tire changing. So it's a pretty decent amount of equipment. I'd be curious how much they've had to spend there and what the maintenance costs on it are. But overall, decent. Owners are relocating. Not the greatest thing to hear, but it's an okay reason. It's not a great reason. Retirement's always better, but it's not a horrible reason. Um, I'm curious how much, because they say high demand area. I wonder how much business being strip view brings in. I couldn't imagine it's a ton, given if you're going to have your truck serviced, you're basically going to go wherever is highest rated and best price, not necessarily is it convenient, because I'm sure it costs a good amount to do those services. Inventory 500,000, not included in asking. Not great to see either, but there's ways to structure this to be workable. So basically, pay it on consignment, so pay it as usage or something like that, or just structure it as part of the deal and just say, hey, it is what it is. We're going to take half of it that's usable or something and start from there. 9 employees, so five full time, four contractors. It's a lot of people. 1.5 million in revenue. So their net or total cost is 1.2 million. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Five full time, four contractors. The numbers kind of make sense. So it basically is all labor is really where all the cost is based on this, or at least that's what we're assuming here. But owners relocating is not great. You do have a pretty decent runway on the lease, so like 2 and a bit years. So not bad. Overall, it's interesting. Let's dive into the numbers. Let me pull this over into our quick vet calculator. This is fully available if you just go to the website. You can go ahead and play around with it for deals you're looking at. We just created it because we look through so many of these deals. It's always good having something that can allow us to play around here. So with these numbers, we have a revenue or purchase or cash flow. Like I said, this is SDE. This isn't real cash flow. It's not real EBITDA or anything like that. So we're going to have to adjust it accordingly. And so what we're going to do, we're going to do a cash flow discount. So what I'm going to do, because I'm going to assume some of this is probably CapEx, so capital expenditure to keep up equipment, and otherwise, I'm going to assume 5% for that. So roughly somewhere along the lines of 16 grand a year, which is probably very low end. I'm going to make this 10%. 37 grand a year probably sounds about right in capital expenditure to upkeep equipment and everything else. And operator costs, because this is not going to include having someone come in to replace what the owner currently does. We don't currently have those responsibilities, but I'm going to assume it's probably something technical. Las Vegas, I mean, maybe 75 to 80 grand, just assuming they're not, 50 hours a week. If they are, this has to go up, but let's make some reasonable assumptions here. And working capital, I'm going to assume it's coming with the purchase, right? So I'm just going to assume you've negotiated some inventory, you've negotiated 2 to 3 months working capital in the deal, and interest rate at 10%, pretty typical for an SBA loan right now. And I'll assume that you're going to come with 5% to close the deal. It's $1 million deal. 5% is 50 grand, on project costs can be a little bit more, maybe 60 to get this deal done. But that said, you could always come in here and play around with these and click investor, and it'll assume you're bringing in an investor. Let's hit calculate, and let's see here. So we got a couple of assumptions we'll just walk through. It's always better to watch. We have a video specifically on this to walk you through all the details of what you're seeing here, but I'll high level it. So interest rate, SBA typically 10% right now. Amortization period, SBA 7A loans are typically a 10-year period. Due diligence and closing costs, this is assuming you're going to have to pay a lawyer, an accountant to do your financial due diligence and purchase agreement setup, as well as cost of what the lender is going to charge you for closing costs. 4% of purchase is roughly in that realm. Buyer injection, 5% of total projects. Like I said, somewhere between probably 55 and 60,000 on a deal this size. Watch the calculator video if you don't understand why it's that and it's not just 50 grand. There's a video specifically we did to break down that. But with that said, let's look at the numbers here. So we have a couple of variations here just to see what it looks like if you play around with higher seller finance, having the owner hold back that secondary note, so acting like a second bank, so that way there's skin in the game to have a successful transition and everything like that. And I mean, based on price, they're actually priced pretty reasonably, all said and done, assuming the seller is not working like 60 hours a week and you got to pay someone 150 grand a year to replace them. They priced it pretty reasonably, all said and done. So 10% note, that'd be the seller holding back 98 grand of the deal. You got a loan size of 870,000 with the SBA and closing costs and all that. Annual debt service, 140 grand a year, basically, and your cash flow is 125 after placing in this 75 grand a year operator. That's not bad for a company of this size. Now, if you can get them to hold closer to a 20% note, I mean, you're sitting at 140, which is really not bad. It's in excess of half of the cash flow they're claiming here. So really not a bad deal. It's kind of interesting for sure. So I mean, if you're in Vegas, I would say check this out if this is within the size of cash flows that you want. But you can make basically 10 grand a month net cash after having someone take over some of the ops work. So really not bad. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe and also like the video. It's always appreciated. But if you want us to look at certain industries or certain locations, go ahead and comment them below. Always looking for feedback on what types of deals we should look at and break down and see, what deals are good deals, what deals are bad deals. See you in the next video.